Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my thoughts and opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Prove strategy 2442. Am I the asshole for letting my sister go thirsty through an entire meal? My sister does this thing where she'll just say something she wants with the expectation that someone will do it for her. For example, if she wants the AC turned on, instead of asking someone to turn it on for her, she'll keep repeating things like, "Oh, isn't it super warm in here? Does anyone else feel really hot?" Or, "I heard that today is a super hot day." And if someone asks her if she wants the AC on, she'll reply with, No, I'm good. But if you're hot, then you should turn it on." Anyways, last weekend, it was my birthday, so my family and I went out to celebrate. During the meal, she kept making comments implying that she wanted another cocktail, but wouldn't order it. The waitress even came by and asked if we needed anything, but she didn't order a drink, even when we all did. I could tell she was agitated at that point, but it was my birthday, so I just ignored her. When we all got home, she got really snippy and said that it was super rude that we all got our own drinks and didn't order one for her. My brother and I brought up that she said no when the waitress asked, but she said that wasn't the issue. In her opinion, we should have known to order her a drink too because everyone else got one. And the fact that we let her go thirsty was inconsiderate. And that in the future, we ought to order her drinks too. She also said that she was only saying no to the waitress because her family should have taken care of her. Her words, not mine. The three of us have been kind of arguing back and forth about it, and I'm just tired of fighting, so I wanted to get some more opinions on whether or not I should have ordered her a drink as well. This is very much an Am I the Asshole post that's just, look at this bullshit I have to deal with, I need a sanity check, please let me know. And I 100% feel that. Honestly, a sick alternative to r/am I the asshole would be just like r/sanity check. But unfortunately, when I went to go create that community, it turns out that's been banned for a long time. So, any ideas? But back to the post, I despise this form of communication. This indirect, oh, I don't want to ask you for it, I want you to do it for me so that way I feel special and loved. If you want to ask for something, be direct with it. Don't just fidget around with it so you get your Prince Charming moment where someone does something for you that you didn't ask for. Just be direct. It makes everyone's lives easier. It's the same thing when a parent goes, "Oh, we're out of plates." And then later on they scold you, "Why didn't you do the dishes like I asked?" "Well, you didn't ask me to do the dishes." "Yes, I did. I said we didn't have any plates." "Okay, then ask me to do the dishes." That might be a bit of a tism on my end speaking there, but it is something of just, if you want something, be direct. But what this poster is dealing with here might be the most egregious example I've ever seen of this. I mean, even to the point where the waiter asks, "Hey, do you want anything?" Everyone orders cocktails. She specifically says no after everyone orders cocktails. What, am I just supposed to order alcohol for you? Is that what you're wanting me to do? Because that doesn't make any sense. I assume that if you say no while we're at a restaurant and you might potentially be driving, you've hit your limit and you probably don't want any more alcohol. How am I supposed to read between the lines and understand that in this case, no means yes? I promise you, and more than likely, 99% of occasions, being direct about something you want is going to be far better than just doing whatever the fuck this is. Wendy Darling 989. Am I the asshole for letting my sister use my husband's office to study while he wasn't even in the country? My younger sister is temporarily living with us, and she was having a hard time studying because my 3-year-old son would constantly interrupt and ask her to play with him whenever she was studying in the living room/kitchen. She asked if she could use my husband's office so he wouldn't bother her, and I agreed since my husband wasn't in the country, he lives abroad about 70% of the time, at the time anyway. I don't think I did anything wrong, but my husband came home as a surprise before the office had been cleaned up, and he was angry at me for letting her use it without asking him first. Like I said, he wasn't in the country, and he wasn't supposed to visit anytime soon, So I thought it would be fine, since it's not like he needed it at the time. He doesn't see it the same way and thinks I should have asked first since it's his office. We've had a few arguments over this with neither of us budging. Admittedly, in our last fight, I did get angry and tell him he shouldn't even have a home office since he's barely home, which did unfortunately escalate the fight. Part of the reason I said that is because my husband was never happy about my sister living here, even though it's had a very minimal impact on him, and I feel like he's using this office situation as an opening to send her back home. I've already bought a desk for her room so she can study in there, but am I the asshole? Does your husband keep important documents or records in his office? Does he have expensive equipment in his office? Like, totally just ignoring the violation of privacy and just wanting your office to be your office and not expecting anyone else to use it. It just kinda sucks that you didn't even ask him if it was okay. Like, I would definitely feel uncomfortable if I left home and found out that someone was using my workspace or my office to do their own stuff. Like, that would suck. Then additionally, what do you mean before you could clean up? Did she make the office space a mess? What would have had to have been cleaned up? Like, if he came home to find his office a mess, like, yeah, that really sucks. I'd also be curious to hear the point of view from a parent because I feel like the 3-year-old's behavior could have been easily mitigated or dissuaded to give the sister more time to work in peace that wouldn't result in her having to migrate into the husband's office. Regardless of whether or not the husband wants the sister gone or not, she's currently staying there. She has her own room, for God's sakes. He may not like the idea of her there, but he's putting up with her being there. I'm definitely a bit biased on this one because I'm coming at this from the perspective of how would I feel if my office space was just used by someone else, especially with what I have in my office, the documents I have in my office, the equipment I have in my office. I would be stressed as hell, and I would feel like I would have to double check everything, triple check it, quadruple check it. I would not feel comfortable with that. But let me know what you think here. Am I off basis and clouded by my own personal biases? Or did OP cross a line with her husband that should not have been crossed? I am not Lindsay Nagel. Am I the asshole for locking myself in my office when we have company? I, 36 female, took in my mother during the pandemic after some medical issues. I never made her move out. It works for us. She has her own bedroom and bathroom, we share their spaces, and I work from home most of the time, so I can look after her. My stepdad died about a decade ago, and she was lonely. It made sense for us. As I mentioned, I work from home most of the time, and a lot of the times, I'm in some kind of Teams meeting or call. Yes, even those that could be emails, but that's not important. So, I don't really have time for chit-chat during office hours. My mom's sister, aka my aunt, tends to drop by unannounced to visit with my mom, which I don't really mind. But she had a tendency to step into my office without knocking while I'm working, and start talking to me about her neighbor's sister's kid who did blah blah blah. I've more than once explained to her that I'm working, or I'm on a call and I can't really chat right now. But she keeps talking, like nothing happened. Today, she actually announced to my mom she was coming over. I reminded my mom to tell her I'm working and on calls and can't be disturbed. And my mom agreed she would tell her not to bother me. But just to be safe, I locked my office door so she couldn't walk in. Despite my mom telling her, she came upstairs and tried to open the door. When it didn't open, she started knocking and calling out, "Hello, it's me, open up!" I didn't respond at first as I was on call with a client, but she kept banging on the door so loudly, I ended up having to put the client on hold. I told her, without opening the door, I was on a call and could not talk right now, and my aunt left in a huff. Now she's bombarding my mom with texts about how rude I was for locking myself in my office knowing I was having company. So am I the asshole? Oh, I see what happened here. Okay, there are updates, but before we get there, I want to explain the aunt's logic. The aunt's logic was, oh, if I give them a heads up, then she knows she has to make time for me so we can chit-chat. Meanwhile, OP reasonably thought, oh, I got a heads up. Yeah, I'll lock my door real quick just so that way I don't get interrupted during my work hours. And again, as I've mentioned hundreds of times, just because you work from home doesn't mean that you can press a magic pause button and stop your work at any time. The update. Going to dinner for a few hours, returned to Reddit only to find out this has exploded. First of all, thank you all for your confirmation that this isn't on me. I did not think I was the asshole, but there's always that hint of doubt where you're like, maybe I should have poked my head out and said hello real quick, but the truth was, it was a busy day, and I just hadn't had the time. Now, for the update. After I finished my workday, I took my mom out for dinner and we discussed the matter. She hadn't responded to any of her sisters, my aunts, texts, because she is fully on my side. I know people are asking why my mom didn't stop her. My mom isn't very mobile anymore, and my aunt simply got up from her seat and took off upstairs despite my mom's warning. We discussed it over dinner, and we agreed that my aunt simply is no longer welcome during office hours, since it's the only way to stop this behavior. Either she can pick up my mom to go to a coffee shop and talk, come after office hours, or come over on the day I work in office. My aunt seems pretty pissy about it, calling their brother, my uncle, to complain also. But he texted me earlier saying he told her how wrong she was, and apparently her husband had also told her she was wrong. So now she's currently stomping her feet at home because everybody is saying she's wrong. Delightful woman she is. Remind me to one day post a story about her Disneyland trip. Anyways, too long didn't read. Mom and I decided she's no longer welcome at my office during office hours. Update to the update, here's the Cliff Notes version of the Disneyland story. She has twin boys, and for their birthday, she booked a trip to take them and one of their friends out to Disneyland. The friend ended up canceling last minute and told me if I paid the friend's share, I could go. Reasonable enough, I figured why not? I was 16 at the time of the story. This story is like 20 years old. I'm European, so this is Disneyland Paris I'm talking about, and I'm not from France, so this is an international trip. This becomes important later. My cousins are maybe 10-ish at this point. So anyways, we're in the parks, and she's been a menace all trip already, but I'm dealing with it. It's the last day, about 5 hours before we have to take our train back home. International traveling train with customs, etc., like a plane would be, only less boarding time. One of my cousins wants to go on the rock and roll roller coaster, the other one doesn't. The line is like 5 minutes or less, so my aunt tells me to go with him, and she'll wait at the exit with her bags. So I leave my bag containing my phone, my ID, my money, everything in her care. 10 minutes later, me and my cousin get out of the ride, and she is gone. So I start looking around, cannot find her. After half an hour of waiting, maybe they went back to the bathroom or something, still nothing. We go check the bathrooms, neighboring rides, the works. No aunt. I have no phone on me to call her. And with us having to leave for the train in 4 hours, I get nervous. I'm a 16-year-old with a 10-year-old at my hand in no money, no ID, no phone, nothing. So I get to the lost kids department and explain my situation. They end up calling her through the park's intercom. Another hour goes by. No aunt. I remember my dad's phone number back home, so I use Disney's landline to call him. He tries calling her cell phone, my cell phone, no response whatsoever. At this point, I have like an hour or less before the train leaves, and I'm in hystericals because I can't board this train without money or ID, let alone with another minor. My cousin at this point, seeing my panic, is crying his eyes out. So I'm also dealing with a scared child, and I'm barely an adult myself. My dad eventually tells me it makes no sense for him to drive out to Paris right now. To go back to our hotel, he'll pay for another night, and he'll come pick us up in the morning. So I take my cousin back to the hotel, explain the situation, and the receptionist hears my name and says, "Oh, sweetheart, I have a note for you." It's from my aunt. Gone to dinner, see you on the train. At this point, I have half an hour to run to the station, hoping we'll still get through customs where she's supposed to be waiting. I make it within 15 minutes to spare. I'm out of breath and fuming. We end up making it through customs, God only knows how, and manage to get on the train literally as the doors close on us. I call my dad, explain the update, and he is also fuming at this point. To which my aunt turns to me and goes, "I don't know why you're so mad. I left a note at the hotel and brought you something to eat," and hands me a freaking dinner roll. I took my stuff, went to the dining car with my cousin, who she also almost abandoned, and gave him the biggest slice of chocolate cake my budget could buy and never came back to our seats to talk to her. XD. Yeah, this aunt is just insane. Like, the whole office story alone was already just something of just a, good God, give her some privacy while she does her job. But the Disneyland story? Seriously? Like, how? What kind of logic is that? Yes, I tell someone to meet me at the exit at this time, but I couldn't possibly wait 10 minutes, so I'm going to go get dinner, go back to the hotel room without telling them, and get on the train, leaving my child and my niece without any way to contact or get a hold of me, as I'm not checking my phone because, yeah, whatever. But hey, at least I got you this dinner roll. I didn't realize you were having a crossover episode with entitled parents. Good lord. Posted by the Defiant Messenger. Am I the asshole for not giving his ashes to my husband's children? My husband had been sick for a long time. I was his carer and was able to work from home to be there when he needed me. When we went to the hospital, I was his advocate. His children would call or stop by just to ask for money. I even gave up a works bonus to give it all to his daughter. We took £1,000 out of our limited savings to help the other with the understanding she would pay it back. We did not expect massive payments, just like £20 a month. My husband finally realized what they were doing and stopped giving them money. This was about 2 years before he passed. The girl stopped calling or coming by at all once the bank dried up. I could see how badly it affected him. At times, he would just stare off into space and say he missed them. Both girls had changed their phone numbers and had moved from their home, so we had no way to get in touch. Our numbers were the same. The landline was about 10 years old and the mobiles about 8 years. So they could have called any time or stopped by, as we had been at that address for 14 years. My husband passed at the end of December. It was really unexpected, as he was doing okay. I was absolutely hysterical about his death. And then I found out the coroner may wish to do an autopsy, as it was unexpected. The time of year made a backlog of cases for the coroner, so we had to wait. It took me a week to even think of notifying his daughters. I realize I should have tried to reach out earlier, but I was not doing well with the loss. I remembered one of the daughters having a Facebook account, so I looked through and found her. I sent her the message, "Please call, urgent." I got a call almost immediately and told her what had happened. About 20 minutes later, there was frantic knocking on the door. The younger of his girls was out there, spitting fire. It took me a week to tell them. She asked where the funeral was being held, and we told her we didn't know, but we would be telling them the minute we found out. She accused me of lying about it, and that I wouldn't let them know when their own father's funeral would be. A few days later, I started getting text messages with, "I want this item," or "that one." It was becoming ridiculous. I rounded up everything that had been theirs and gave it to them. Plus, more from the text they asked for. It was funny. After 2 years of silence, suddenly they wanted rings of his. I was finally able to arrange his funeral, and a few days later, his ashes were delivered to me. The final text I got from them was, "Can we have some of his ashes for remembrance jewelry?" I said no. I told them my husband had never even wanted me to notify them he had died. So I wasn't going to give them any of his ashes. Am I the asshole for not giving them some of his ashes? Edited. I get that a lot of you are condemning me for the late notification of their father's death. I understand where you're coming from. What you have to understand is, I got up to use the toilet at 3 a.m., went back to bed next to him, and then woke up at 4:05, and he was gone. He had a do not resuscitate in place, so I couldn't even try to give him CPR. The doctor was called, and I sat downstairs waiting for the results of the exam to verify his death, and I honestly thought the doctor was going to say I have arranged an ambulance to rush him to the hospital. Instead, he said his condolences. Called the police to stand guard over our bedroom until the coroner got there hours later. I was in shock. I sat in his favorite chair for days, barely ate, and just stared at nothing. It took a week for my brain to even comprehend he was gone. Kept thinking he was at the hospital. I've learned since that the trauma of waking up next to him kind of shut my brain down to try and protect me from the pain. So I agree, they should have been told right away, but I was in no state to think rationally, and as soon as my brain started working, I tried to find a way to contact them. So I clicked on the story initially because it had the big red asshole tag on it. And I was expecting a situation where, hey, we might have some nuance and might get some not the assholes in the story that would actually be, interesting to look at and dissect, because honestly, r/am I the asshole only upvotes not the assholes and downvotes assholes, despite the fact that should not be the case. So I was expecting the story to have more negative nuance to it, but instead I've just found a grieving widow who has some stepchildren that seem to be very materialistic. It seems that one person voted "you're the asshole," and that caused the rating to be cemented, despite most of the comments being not the asshole. And here we are. I can't give OP the "you're the asshole" rating. I can't. The kids pretty much sectioned themselves off from having any contact with their parents, and left themselves in a position where the only way they could be given contact was through Facebook. And once word got out, they were more interested in the materialistic possessions, and they seem to have cut contact when the money went dry. Hell, if OP's word is anything to go on, the husband didn't even want his own kids to be aware of his passing, which is heartbreaking to know that the relationship had hit that point. I feel if the children actually cared, they would have done more to stay in contact and not essentially vanish from the face of the earth without giving their family any way of actually reaching out to them, beyond them having to Facebook stalk them. I guess the end question here is that, yes, emotions are high, but does OP honor her husband's dying wishes? Or does she give the children a second chance and allow them to mourn the loss of their father with commemorative jewelry? I'm a little off-put by the idea of it being a materialistic way of remembering him, but perhaps there's some solace in the irony here. Beautiful Ideal 2620. Am I the asshole for telling our parents my brother had a child outside of his marriage? For years, my brother has been trying to go into business with my husband. It hasn't worked out for various reasons, but he finally had an idea that my husband thought would be successful. The thing is, before my husband goes into business with anyone, he does an extensive background check on them. I'm not sure if he made my brother aware he was going to do a check or not, but it's how he found out that my brother has a daughter outside of his marriage. I had no idea this child existed, and my husband warned me I shouldn't say anything, but I couldn't just not tell my parents, so I told them a few days ago. They were as shocked as me, as they also had no idea she existed and immediately confronted my brother about it. Turns out his wife is fully aware, but said she would leave if he tried to include his daughter in the family, which is why neither of them told any of us about her. Ooh. Oh, Reddit's rating for this one actually really pisses me off. My parents want to meet her and include her in our family, but my sister-in-law is threatening to leave if that happens, so my brother won't give them her mother's contact information. They want my husband to find out for them, but he's refusing to get involved, so everything's a shit show right now. I personally want to meet my niece, so I've told my husband if he doesn't give me the information, I'll ask the friend he uses for background checks myself, which has caused multiple fights between us. My brother hates me right now and is blaming me for his potential divorce, but I don't think it's fair as I didn't know my parents would immediately confront him. I did ask them not to. Am I the asshole? So we're gonna have a bit of a talk about this one. Reddit has deemed this user the asshole. Now, for those of you who are, daily watchers and daily listeners, you all probably remember the one that we covered in an Oh No Consequences of an affair child who dealt with literal hell in the family not wanting anything to do with her, and the mental anguish that it caused. And Reddit was rallying in the comments to their support. But here we have almost the exact fucking scenario, but in this case, we actually have a family that wants to be in their life. But oh no, the brother wants to maintain the marriage at the cost of the daughter's relationship with the family. That is fucked up and unacceptable in my opinion. And when we get to the comments here in just a second, I hope you all will agree with me on some of their logic. I'm going to avoid reading usernames this time. You're the asshole. You're old enough to be married, and when you found out about your brother's child, you ran to your parents. The only one you should have gone to, unless you didn't want to go to anyone, would be your brother, who is also an adult. My husband warned me I shouldn't say anything, but I couldn't just not tell my parents, so I told him. So you can't say you weren't warned. Another commenter, agreed. She seems to have been so eager to run and tattle to their parents. Makes me think she's jealous of their regard for her brother or something. Otherwise, why wouldn't your first impulse be to go to your brother and say, I heard this, is it true? And ask what happened. Old Sarjo too responds, or, she knew her parents would want to meet their grandchild. Another user responds, doesn't matter. That's between them and the brother, and she has nothing to do with it. It's already reprehensible that her husband even told her what he found. Matt Davies responds, more reprehensible than denying your child a relationship with your family? More reprehensible being absent from your child's life? I am shocked what I'm reading here. I mean, sure, OP could have just, asked the brother first. Sure. But in this case, I don't fucking care. Reddit right now is trying to justify the abuse of this child because OP was a blabbermouth. But what? Are we just supposed to ignore the fact that daughter is actively being neglected and abused because the brother cheated? And the wife is literally perpetuating this as she doesn't deserve any contact with family because you cheated? And OP's the asshole? This isn't even just one comment either. I'm just gonna scroll down here and list them up. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. You're the asshole. Everyone sucks here. You're the asshole. Everyone sucks here. You're the asshole. 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 I don't know, man. You're the asshole. Everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here, for sure. Then finally, after all of that, one not the asshole. For blowing the lid on this? Are we fucking serious? We are defending a marriage that is built upon the active neglect of a child. After coming back to this, sitting down, reading it around 2 or 3 more times, here's my final take. I still stand by my words, but I've even probably bolstered my opinion on this. Because even if we want to look at this from the background check revealed the fact the father was paying child support payments, and that's how this all got revealed and how this all spiraled. So that would mean that the mother is the one taking care of the child with sole custody. And that's why we have the current situation of the child doesn't deserve to be part of the family's life, or we get a divorce. We're in a situation where that child will never know the other half of her family because their essentially stepmother is holding their father hostage under the threat of the divorce from them ever learning they have a second family that wants to love them and is practically jumping with joy at the idea of meeting them. But no. They can't have that because a daddy who wants nothing to do with them wants to make sure his marriage stays together because that child's the product of an affair, and he would rather conveniently keep all of that swept under the rug. And of course, this is based upon the idea that this sole custody situation is the situation at hand, which is giving the brother and sister-in-law as much benefit of the doubt as I'm willing to give. In the end, I think the grandparents and LP at least deserve the opportunity to reach out and attempt to just ask the biological mother if they can have that relationship. It should not be predicated on the brother's marriage and whether or not the child actually exists or not, because he was the one who decided to have an affair. Why should the child be punished for the father's actions? Why should the father get to decide who the child can consider who is or is not family? That's the problem that I have here. He tried to sweep his dirty little secret under the rug, and the only person that it harmed was the child. I'm disappointed that Reddit is more upset with the fact that OP told the parents and they were a tattletale and obviously jealous of the brother. Instead of looking at it from the fact of there is a child who's being deprived of loving relationships because of an affair that's trying to be swept under the rug. I feel like contact with the extended side of the family on the father's side should be solely the decision of the biological mom, who, by the sounds of it, probably has custody. Now, perhaps maybe I'm off basis by a bit here, and I'm not seeing the bigger picture because I'm more focused on the neglect of the child. So if that's the case, please let me know. But I still think I'm comfortable with my opinion on this post. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code AITA directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code AITA at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.